welcome again, everybody. We're very happy to have you here. My name is Juan. I lead the content team here at Sharpist, and I will be your host for today's session, which is called First Time Leaders, How HR Can Support a Successful Start. Luckily for me and for most of you, I will not be leading this presentation, but we have an amazing guest with us today, Katherine Kun, who is an organizational development coach, a first-time leader coach, and of course, one of our dear Sharpist coaches. And I know that you have a very nice introduction planned, Katherine. I don't want to mess with that, but it would be great if you could share just a few words, not giving away too much about yourself.
Yes, hello from my side as well, from sunny Munich. As Juan mentioned, I'm a team developer and I'm specialized on coaching for first-time leaders and have been with Sharpist since 2019.
Thank you, Katherine. You've been with us for a long time, and that makes us truly, truly happy. It's a pleasure working with you. So now that we've introduced ourselves very quickly, we can start looking at the agenda for today. So we are going to have a very short contribution by me. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Sharpist, about what we do, and then we can start right away with Katherine's presentation. She's going to have a quick introduction round about herself, about you all who are present in this call. And then we're going to get right into business. We're going to look at the challenges that first-time leaders face in organizations. Katherine is then going to share some ideas on how HR departments can support them. Also sharing one of my favorite parts of this presentation, some do's and don'ts for first-time leaders. And finally, we're going to have ample time for a Q&A session. Before we start, I would like to remind you that you can always use the chat function to write down your questions. We're going to be monitoring the chat on a regular basis. And if you have a question that is immediately related to what Katherine has been saying, we will try to take it up. But questions that are a little bit longer and that require a little bit of discussion or a little bit more in-depth, we are going to leave then for the Q&A. So if everybody's ready and everybody agrees, I say, let's start right away. And let's start at the very beginning. And let's briefly talk about learning. Learning is a continuous process. It is not something that happens overnight. And if you don't believe me, you can just ask anyone who has ever tried to make up for not attending class for a whole semester and then tries to cram it in everything at an all-nighter before the exam and hopes for the best. Learning and development in a professional setting is also quite similar. Successful professional learning and development really requires that you have a strategic approach to continuously developing groups of learners and groups of leaders over time. And this is exactly what Sharpist does. We create leadership development programs for enterprise customers around the world, and we have a broader mission to help millions of professionals lead healthier, more productive, and more fulfilling lives and careers. And from our experience working with hundreds and hundreds of enterprises throughout these years, we have learned that these three are the most common objectives that companies want to tackle through people development. First of all, they want to drive continuous growth. And this means that they want to equip their organization with the right skills for market leadership. And these skills usually tend to be related to building resilience or to keeping motivation in times of constant change. The second most common objective is employee retention. And this is, I think, quite straightforward. This means reducing loss of talent through empowering employees. And this is quite simple, at least in the L&D setting. When people feel motivated and cared for, and when they see purpose in what they do, they perform the best. And the coaching culture is perfect for empowering and engaging employees, and it can even increase retention by up to 35%. Then we have the last most common objective, and that is developing leaders or leadership development. Our clients usually turn to us to help their leaders develop key skills that are required to lead teams effectively. And this in turn helps the entire organization drive greater business outcomes. And it is exactly this last objective that is especially interesting for us today. We have just defined leadership development as an organization's ability to empower its leaders. And this empowerment means that leaders can inspire their teams and they can also inspire other leaders within their organization. Now, what does this actually mean from an individual perspective? I asked that question because Sharpist is a platform that drives growth for organizations and for individuals. So we focus both on delivering company outcomes and individual learning progress. So we briefly touched on the former. Let's take a look at the latter. This wonderful visualization represents the different levels on which leadership development topics and themes progress. So typically, a coaching journey will start by deepening your understanding of your own self, so building resilience. Then it will be followed by increasing your knowledge on how you actually lead and behave as a leader. Then you will typically start working on your skills and your behaviors that allow you to work efficiently with others. And finally, how you can shape your entire organization and deliver results through systems. As you can see in this visualization, there's arrows going both ways, so going right and going left. This means that there is not a single prescribed formula for a coaching journey. Coaching journeys always start from the individual's or the coachee's desires, from their needs and their context. And here, context really is key, because L&D interventions are truly effective when they happen at the right time. And I know that Katherine is a huge proponent of this. Specific coaching topics and themes can be worked on in any order, as long as the learner can do so when it's relevant to them. And if you will remember, we started this very short presentation by stating that learning is a journey. And an employee's experience with your company is a journey as well. And this journey contains or is made up of pivotal moments which make or break their perception of the entire experience. So no pressure. The journey starts with the recruitment process, is then followed by the onboarding experience. And finally, once you've settled into your job, into your team, you start looking to the career development, your career development plans. And then you come to the training and upskilling opportunities that your employer provides you in order to fulfill this plan. These are all key moments where L&D interventions can have their most profound impact. And obviously, or surely, people development and coaching can support during all of these moments. And Sharpist offers dedicated learning packages that enable you to support your employees when they need it the most. However, first-time leadership is arguably the one where employees need the most ongoing, just-in-time support. And that is the one on which we are going to focus on today. So I will now give the virtual stage to Katherine, stop sharing my screen, and let you take it from here.
All right, great. Thank you, Juan. Then I'll take over to dive into today's topic. Just a heads up beforehand, but I mean, 2 years of pandemic or longer, you are experts by now. What would be really beneficial if you can really focus, because it will be interactive. So we want to have your input, so to make sure you're really there mentally and physically. And as Juan mentioned, write questions in the chat. I'm happy to answer them when then we come to the end. My background and why am I interested in first-time leaders? Well, to take you a bit on a journey, I put the map of the world here because I was born in Germany, but I grew up similar to Juan in Costa Rica, lived in the US, and then have worked in several countries in Europe because I worked for Airbus. So I worked in a large corporate organization where I was, amongst other positions, an internal team development consultant. And what I saw there is that I was often called for team development processes. And when I did the team analysis, even though I was told, yeah, the team is not really working well, I realized actually it was the behavior of the leader. There was also really having a bad impact on the team's performance. So I thought, when I started my own company in 2018, what can I do for teams to work well? Well, I'll have to, start with the leaders. And I want to start with the ones who are super engaged, open to reflect, to challenge themselves. And that's the first-time leaders. So this is why I'm here. And for the past 4 years, have been working with first-time leaders. And I want to share my learnings, both on the challenges, but also on what supports first-time leaders, and especially since we have a large HR crowd here, what can HR do to support, since I'm also an HR person by heart, so 8 years in leadership development and several HR departments at Airbus. Let's see who's here. So we would love to do a little raise your hand exercise to see. We've seen in the chat, some of you work in leadership development, like Jana. I think Edo said he's an HR consultant. Let's see who of you is a leader and maybe not a leader yet. So raise your virtual hand at the bottom if you are leading a team, and then I'll have a look in the, I see a few. Oh, 7, 8, 9, 10. Whoa, great. Perfect. So many of you experience, that's really great. So we see what were also maybe your challenges back then. Thanks for putting the hand down. I waited a bit, and now I want to see who's maybe not yet leading a team. Let's have a show of hands as well. Okay, great. A slightly larger proportion. Yep. Great. Thanks for, yeah, that gives me an idea of what are your personal backgrounds connected to the topic of starting the first leadership role. So I want, like I mentioned, it will be interactive. Would love to hear, before I share some challenges that I face quite regularly across different organizations, I would love to hear what are challenges that you face or first-time leaders face in your organizations. So what I have prepared, let's see, technically, we tried it and it worked. It should work now. Oh, now the screen sharing was stopped. I will reshare it. There is a Miro board that I've prepared. Hopefully, many of you have used these kind of virtual whiteboards. So there's the opportunity once you will enter to write a sticky note and write down your challenges. So the Sharpist colleagues will now add the link to the Miro board in the chat. Perfect. I am seeing many of you, and I would like to bring you to this board. And please take a Post-it and write down what are challenges that you've seen first-time leaders having, and also challenges maybe in SHR supporting. I'll stop. Okay. And if you have questions on Miro, on finding Post-its and things like that, also to write them in the chat, and someone from the Sharpist team can help you out. But I see already many Post-its being written, just a few. So topics of time management that you face, as I assume also as HR, having the time to support first-time leaders. I see something that finding your leadership style and not just doing what you experience yourself. Yes, what you experience might not be the right thing for others. Great. I see many, so I'll let you one more minute just to write down so we get really this board of challenges. And I see very familiar things like unclear expectations that first-time leaders have. And also, like, as HR, understanding where to help them prioritize. Yes. Topics like delegation. Great. I see perfectly this mix of like what challenges first-time leaders face, and also that challenges HR faces, like not enough HR people to support all the first-time leaders. Great. Fortunately, it's such a short moment today that we have together, so I'd love to switch back. But what we can do is we can send you the Miro link or Miro board link, so that you see, you're not alone in your organization, and the first-time leaders are not alone, and you can have more time to look at the challenges other HR colleagues face. I will so go back to the presentation. So if you have, different screens on, this is where we are at now. And let me share a few challenges from my side. I think it was mentioned also on your Post-its, high expectations on themselves. So first-time leaders I've worked with across the years, many of them have unclear, don't really know what is expected of them, and think they need to know everything from day one. I know it sounds logical, but there's often a high drive. People are proud to be in the first leadership role, and they want to do it right from the beginning. Then often I see first-time leaders are being promoted based on their technical skills. I assume that rings a bell or sounds familiar in many organizations, and then are like, okay, I know what I do here, but I have no idea on leadership, actually. Then another challenge is like a systemic challenge of being a team member before and then being the boss of your own team members, and how to, from a communication point of view, from an emotional point of view, how to manage that. This fourth one is related to the second one. People, maybe due to their technical skills, were really a specialist in their topic, and now the skill set that they need for their leadership role is a different one, because it's a general one. It's really managing, making sure people are best equipped to do their job and to support them there, instead of being the technical expert. And then people feel often alone because they have all these topics going on. And like you said, sometimes also the HR departments have few resources to support but we will show you later what can be done there. And something that we do see, organizations having leadership development programs, but maybe they start at some point later when enough people are ready, but that's not when they need it. The transition time where all these challenges come up from team member to leading for the first time. Let me just see, I think, okay. Then these are challenges, but we're here to look for the solutions. So let's go back to the Miro board, and Kim, if you could just post the link, but I think most people still should have it there. And I move to the right because I would love to hear what is it in your organizations that you already do to support first-time leaders, so that we get some like best practices also from your side. What is working well? I think everyone should be able to be on this board. Let me just see where you're. Okay, yep, you are mostly on that board. Great. Constructive feedback. Yes, some people already have training, coaching, mentoring. Leonardo's writing that. An onboarding plan for new leaders, managers. Great. That's very helpful. Coaching, great. A few of you are doing coaching. Maybe some of you are also already Sharpist clients. A buddy program. Yes, that's something I'll speak about as well. Let's wait a bit more. I think mentors, external coaching, yes. So what I'll show you afterwards is that there's a lot you have internally that you can do. And of course, there's external support, like some of you have been writing. But what I just see here, like setting clear expectations, goals, agree on milestones, that's things that you can really, that you have in your own area of control, that you can bring into your organizations as HR professionals. Great. I see a community of first-time leaders. That is such an important point, tackling the challenge of feeling alone in this big challenge. That's really great. Cool. So many things already popping up. Let me go back. And again, you'll get the link to the Miro board so you can see the best practices other HR colleagues are doing. And I will share my slides again to share some of the things that I've seen working really well. So recommendations. First of all, and depending on your size of organization, you might have it, maybe not, but having some kind of leadership model or some kind of values and knowing what does that mean for first-time leaders is a really important foundation, because it gives guidance, it helps about expectations. Oh, that's the kind of leadership behavior that's expected of me that ideally I've seen role modeled beforehand. So that I would say is foundation. Then some of you wrote that mentoring. So having a more senior person in the organization from a different area supporting first-time leaders. And I'm a big fan, like Juan mentioned, of just in time. So it's not just, oh yeah, we'll give you a mentor at some point. No, no, no. Ideally, it should be someone in the transition phase supporting first-time leaders. Networking, some of you wrote that, the community of first-time leaders. So I called it a circle of first-time leaders, facilitated by someone from HR development, the learning and development area, already before the start. Same point here. It gets people to think about beforehand, what's important, how can I present myself on day one? We'll see that on the do's and don'ts, and have this community along. My suggestion is really the first 4 or 5 months, because I'm an advocate. Usually you start off at your high, there's the honeymoon, and then like the challenges start to come in leading the team. So my recommendation is really to keep it for 4 or 5 months after starting. Buddies, someone else mentioned that, maybe also 2 first-time leaders to see how are you doing it, really to have this informal exchange. Something like how-tos, guidebooks. I'm not sure, I think I saw a posted similar to that. So also to have information on because it'll be the first time there'll be disciplinarily leading people often. So what are HR tools, topics that I've seen from the participant or like employee perspective and now need to apply from the leader perspective. So that's something important. And also we'll provide you today with the do's and don'ts, a little how-to. Trainings. Some of you mentioned that. And I, again, here have the word just in time. So to have a group of people going through a first-time leader training from like a month beforehand to the first 4, 5, 6 months of starting a position, to give them the actual content that is needed at those specific points in time. That's something, for example, with my organization that we work on very much to be this sparing partner, both on content, but also like coaching, community, things that come into play at this important transition time. And the last one, since we are all connected somehow by Sharpist as well, is coaching. So many of you wrote that to have an external person supporting, an external certified coach supporting first-time leaders, it can have many benefits. I just wrote 3 of the many that I see as especially effective, is to have this external sparing partner that, you know, okay, whatever challenges come up, I have this coach I can speak to, I get challenged by to see what other options do I have to adapt my behavior, adapt my mindset possibly. And it's just the sparing partner element that I find very important. That helps you also to feel supported, because it is this new role. It is this feeling of, okay, I'm alone. I get like put in the ocean and now I need to swim, but I have a coach supporting me and I can check in regularly. And the last one is where coaching, like what Juan mentioned in the introduction as well, really supports on the self-leadership, on the resilience, on what does it mean for me, from my mindset. Maybe some doubts come in, the topic of high expectations on myself. So those are all things where a coach can really support first-time leaders in this just-in-time transition phase. That would be it from my side. I know I said I'll take questions at the end. Okay, great. Then I just had a look at the chat. I think there were no questions so far. Let's move to some content. Like I said, a little guidebook or how-to manual can be helpful. And here I'd love to offer you some content where I see that you can pass on to your first-time leaders, and that I see as really relevant do's and don'ts for first-time leaders in the first month. First one, oh, that was too fast, is I call it Leadership Manifesto. And that includes a kind of self-reflection beforehand about yourself as a leader. What are your values? How would people see through which behavior that you are living those values? What's important to you in the interaction with the team? What's information the team should know about you? So those are just 4 questions that I put under the name of Leadership Manifesto as something that you can prepare as first-time leader beforehand, and then share that when you start taking over the team. So ideally when your own boss introduces you as the new leader, there's like a kickoff meeting and you present yourself. So that it's not just, hi, I'll be leading you. I've never done it before, but we're gonna manage. That people see you are prepared, and you can share that it's the first time I'm leading a team. I'm a big fan of like authenticity, and at the same time showing that you step up to the challenge, you are prepared. So that's what I call, definitely have a kind of leadership manifesto about you as leader in your introduction. The next one is to have one-to-ones with team members. Even though it might be a lot of new topics, business topics, decisions need to be made, it's a busy time period when you start taking over a new team, a new job. And nevertheless, it's the time to set the foundation with your team members. And that's why one-to-one meetings to get to know them on a professional, but also on a personal level are so important. So my recommendation for first-time leaders is do not skip that. It's not like, oh, so much time. It's a time investment that then later on pays off, because you'll have more trust. There's just a foundation to start building their relationship, because it's so always important what I share with first-time leaders to think about content and relationship. So getting ready on what is it the team does, targets to meet, all of that, but also establishing the relationship. Once you have the one-to-one contact, it's good to also see the team as a system all together. And that's where a team workshop comes in. So it could be just a short time. I say always take time for team time, so that it means that also the interaction of the team is important. And a team workshop, for example, could be something, if you just Google like from General Electric many years ago, they had one, it's called like New Manager Workshop. It's very simple, where you look at the past and you look at the future together, and you do that in like 3 hours time. So those could be nice team workshops where you also see the interaction of people in the team. And I have a last one. So looking at yourself, looking at individuals in your team, looking at the whole team and outside, so the peers, who are people around you at the same level, who could support you in also, or support your team in being successful. To think about that and to have really this networking 360 degree in the first 1 month is what I definitely recommend. Summarizing this slide. The last point is that you can also do this remotely, of course. So it's nicer to do all of those exchanges in person, but it's definitely this, I'm a big fan of, if you believe it, others will feel it. So if you believe, trust can be established, a good interaction, even a virtual team workshop, if your team is very spread, all those things, if you send out the message that you believe the team can work together well virtually, people will feel it. Then there are some don'ts, where I say attention, attention. Based on my experience, I see sometimes people just jumping right into action. But I mentioned before, the look at content and relationship. So they look at the content, they jump right into action, but they don't build a relationship. So it's a time investment to build a relationship. That's what will make your team successful in the long term. So really planning time for that. Then the next one is to don't be afraid to communicate often and early on. I mean, hardly ever someone says, oh yeah, my new leader communicates too much. People are usually, they want to get to know their new leader. They want to know what our ideas, what's behind. So by sharing, and it's not just, okay, I'm here and I want to change this and that. I say, please don't wait first, but to communicate, I'm here, I want to listen to you. I want to better understand how come things are done this way in the team. So to really share, what is it that you want to do, you do it, you reflect on it. I think it can be very helpful, and don't like step yourself back or like hold yourself back in communication. People are curious and usually want to know. And the last one is assume others are like you. I think it was on one of the post-its. So just because you like to be led a specific way when you were a team member does not mean it's a good way for everybody. Meaning, for example, let's make it more specific. If you liked being really autonomous and like taking your own decisions, it was how you thrived, which is great. However, then making the assumption, oh, great, I'll give everyone in my team lots of autonomy. They can do what they want. I'll just check in quickly. That can lose some of the people, because it's from like, if you're, for example, like situational leadership or adaptive leadership, it's important to really adapt your leadership style to the needs of the people in a team. So maybe someone needs much more guidance because they don't have much experience on a specific topic. So by like just assuming, oh, I like being really free and autonomous, I'll just give them, they might feel completely lost. So looking at understanding, that's why the one-to-ones are so important, to get to know the team. What's the kind of leadership style that helps people thrive? Where, on which kind of topics would they have a bit closer interaction? Which kind of topics are they good to go? And they get motivated by having exactly that autonomy and freedom. So this is, I think, out of all the, I would say, most important one, to not assume others are like you, but to enter with the open mind, enter with questions instead of assumptions. I hope that, this gives you an idea that a lot can be done to support first-time leaders. We looked at activities HR can do in-house, but also external support. We looked at some do's and don'ts, a little handbook or a how-to that you can pass on to your team. And I hope you leave this webinar, and we still have time for questions, really feeling that there can be many ways to support first-time leaders, and I would be curious to answer your questions and to see any further deep dives you'd like to make. I think on the last slide, I'll hand back to Juan. On the right-hand side, you will see my LinkedIn details, Instagram. The QR code takes you right away to my LinkedIn page. And I'm happy also to connect. If you have any further specific questions afterwards, I'm happy to connect and exchange. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Katherine. I had already seen the presentation. I was so looking forward to you doing it, and I'm very impressed. This was extremely insightful, so thank you very much. Just before we go to questions, I would also like to remind everybody that we are also quite interested in hearing about you, if we don't know you already, from the Sharpist perspective. So if you want to learn more about us, about our solutions, about our products, we have a link that will allow you to schedule a call directly with our team. So please feel free to make use of it. We are happy to get to know you a little bit better. And I think we can go for questions now, if there are any. I saw that the chat was quite full of comments, full of nice messages, but I don't see any questions yet. So, please feel free to engage.
I think there is one in the Q&A tool.
Oh,
how
here we
can
go.
team members of first-time leaders support them on this journey without them being openly vocal about them being a first-time leader? So first of all, I want to check if I understood the question correctly. Do I understand it right that it's like you are in a team and you get someone as your new boss who is a first-time leader? Okay. Then, great. Thanks for the feedback. My recommendation would be to offer feedback and to really say, like, I'm a fan of making it like at specific times. So it just makes it easier. Like, oh, you've been leading for a whole month now, or for 3 months, or whenever you feel there's a good relationship, and just to offer like my perception of how it was to work with you in this time as we are working together newly, and by offering it, they can still say yes. Or they say, oh, maybe let's wait a bit more when we have our official feedbacks, or in case whatever they might not be so comfortable with, they say, okay, next week I'll prepare myself as well. So just by showing that you want them to succeed, I think giving feedback is a good way.
Wonderful answer. Thank you, Katherine. Yeah, support always goes a long way. I can also say it from myself in my own first-time leadership position. It's always very nice to hear that the team cares as much as you care about them. I actually have a question for you, Katherine.
Yeah.
Maybe this is also interesting for everybody else. So also, as I said, as a first-time leader, I've done a little bit of research, I've done a lot of reading. I've also been fortunate enough to have a coach guide me through this process from the very beginning. And usually when we talk about first-time leadership, we focus on the leader's first relationship with the team and how you manage that relationship. Do you think that there is a difference also in how a first-time leader manages their relationship with their boss? Like, is there a sort of an interesting change of how you manage that relationship?
I think so. This is a kind of the direction I was going with the do's, to look at yourself, look at your team, look at the peers, and the last one is, of course, look at your boss. So the relationship there as well. Maybe the person knows you as leader, maybe not. So again, same thing. It's content and relationship. To also, of course, you'll have exchanges with your boss on content topics, but again, ask them here for feedback on how do you see me, or the interaction. First of all, what are your expectations on me? Not just on the content, or like moving certain milestones, deadlines, whatever, like achieving the goals, but also what are expectations you have as my boss on leading the team, on developing the team. So having this conversation at the beginning is very helpful as well. So I think 360.
Yeah, in every direction, also
in every
up and
direction.
down. That's great. Thank you, Katherine. We have another question here from Fatma.
Yes.
Let me read it out to you. So thanks a lot for all the information. Thank you for joining, Fatma. I want to ask my question via an example which I struggled. Let's say we promoted a senior to a leader position. This is their first leader experience. She or he has hard skills, but does not have constructive communication, agility, kind of soft skills. Can HR teach these skills? How can HR help them to improve themselves?
Yes, I think also communication skills can be taught. The only requirement of sometimes people ask me, what does it take to be a leader? My answer is pretty simple. Have an interest in people. Like if you enjoy working with people, developing them, really the interactions, then the rest can be learned. And that's fine too, you are not so keen on supporting people, having conversations, all of that, because you thrive in a different environment, then being promoted to a leadership position is not the right thing. So I think that's the important foundation to have. And then I think you wrote like constructive communication, agility, these kind of soft skills. There are great trainings. There is coaching, for example, and there is lots of like on-the-job development. But as HR team, to offering that support on those skills is really crucial. If you have someone, like you said, a senior is promoted, but if they only have technical experience before, I think that has to go together with the premise that they are interested in people.
I think we can also take live questions and contributions by the audience. So I see cool, Katharina has her hand raised,
and I think
Fatma also wanted to contribute.
Yeah, should we just take Fatma first to answer on that question and then we go to Katharina? Okay.
All right, let's go. So Fatma,
can you answer? Okay. Then I see Fatma's answer.
Perfect. Katharina, would you like to go next?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, great. Everyone can just share their question and unmute themselves who raised their hand.
Seems not to be working. I still see the mute icons.